Next place I lived, I moved again because there was all this weird stuff happening, and there was this one guy stalking me. Oh yeah, there was this one guy stalking me around, and I had dinner. He was also going to that college, and he like somehow befriended me, like thinking that he was nice or whatever. I went over to his house for dinner one time, and he starts talking to me about how blood drinking was like the most intimate thing you could do with somebody. It really freaked me out. And after that, I didn't talk to him anymore. But he had all these like artifacts. Like he had like Vincent van Gogh paintings that looked really authentic. It's kind of weird. And then he had this thing that looked like the Mayan calendar. I don't know. But back then I didn't know what the Mayan calendar was. But I was really fascinated by it for some reason. I was just like, wow, that is really interesting. It was really weird. And then I stopped talking to him because, one of the things he said to me was really, really freaking weird. He said to me, he was an artist too, and he's playing guitar at my house this one time. And he was like, what did he say? He was playing guitar, or I was playing guitar, one of the two. He was sitting right next to me, and then all of a sudden, just out of the blue, he goes, "Are you an agent?" Just out of the blue, and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" You know what I mean? I'm like, "You mean theatrical agent? I mean, what are you saying?" And he just had this really, and I sort of like laughed it off. Kind of like laughed at him, like I was kind of chuckled, kind of like, why would you ask me that? But he just had this really serious look on his face. And then I think he just like repeated the question. He was like, "Are you an agent?" And I don't even remember what I said. I was just like, "No. I mean, I don't know what you're even talking about." And then he said something that I never forgot. He said, the best agents are the ones that don't know that they're agents. And I was just like, I don't know what I said. I don't remember what I said. But I never forgot that because there was a lot of weird stuff going on in my life. And that was a possible explanation for what was happening to me. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, I stopped hanging out with him though because he was really freaking me out. There was a lot of weird stuff that I don't even want to go into besides the blood drinking thing. I just don't even want to it was weird. I mean, he might have just been saying that to like freak me out or who knows what. They do that. But I stopped hanging out with him. And I moved to this other place. And then that was when I was homeless and I saw the television show with the girl that had been murdered and she was my roommate, and then that was really weird. Then a lot of stuff happened there. Oh, that was the time. Okay, that was the time when I was working this one job and I was a microfiler, and my clock kept like, the hands on my clock would like spin around like something was magnetic. There was some type of magnetic field or something in there. But the thing that was really weird, I mean, even besides the clock, there was this lady there. I think they were telling lies about me because there was this lady there that just, oh my God, she gave me, I was in the kitchen. I was just getting my lunch, and I was, like I said, I've always been non-combative person who just mind my own business. I'm quiet. I don't really talk to anybody, but I'm very polite. If somebody talks to me, I'm very nice, very polite. But I just pretty much mind my own business. Never ever would I ever do anything to hurt anyone or anything. on purpose, and never. I'm just not like that, and I never have been like that. I think, honestly, sometimes I think that God put me in this position precisely for that reason, because I was so socially isolated that I never could be in a situation where I did anything to anybody. And I was so inhibited that I never really interacted with anybody. And so I was put in a unique position to where I could later on figure out that this was experimentation, because there just wasn't any other explanation for it. Because a lot of people are really distracted with the gang stalking. They think it's an ex-boyfriend, or they think this, or they think that, and they get distracted. I just don't think it's any of those things. I think this is experimentation that is being done to us. They are experimenting with us. And possibly even now, I'm thinking maybe even the gang stalkers themselves are being experimented on to see what they will do. You know what I mean? Like, how far will you go? How far will you follow instructions? Like, will you hurt other people and stuff like that? So I think it's experiments that are being done on everybody. But anyway, so what was I saying? Can't remember what I was saying. Oh yeah, so I'm working at this place, and I turn around, and this woman, she was older than me, and she was giving me the most horrendous, dirty look I think I've ever seen in my life. I mean, just really, like, bad. And I was just in shock. I was like, whoa, I didn't even speak to her or anything. And she acted like I had just stabbed her. It was really, and I just remember thinking, that is so weird. Oh my God, what was that all about? That was so weird. And then another thing that happened when I was working there was, and this is even weirder. And by the way, like I said, I went homeless while I was working at this job, because I was assaulted by the person that I was staying with. I was assaulted. Like, the person just all of a sudden flipped out and attacked me physically for no reason at all. And I'm not going to say who it was, but it was really weird. I mean, they attacked me for absolutely no reason, and just, it was like they were possessed or something. And then I went home. I was homeless after that. But that was when I was working at this job. So I think possibly they were doing experiments on us at that job, is my point. And perhaps what that person assaulting me at my home was, in fact, probably one of the experiments. Because the person kept saying that I was giving them a dirty look, and I'm like, I promise you, I'm not. I'm not. And they kept saying, you don't like me, and I was like, what are you talking about? I'm helping you fold laundry. And they just kept getting madder and madder and madder until they were physically assaulting me. It was the scariest thing. I think it was like one of the most scary things I've ever experienced. And I don't know. I think that's possibly they were conducting experiments on people that were working there, and also people that were whatever. So possibly they were doing that to her. But the weird thing that happened to me while I was there was that there was this guy that sat behind me. We all sat at these desks because we were microfile. It was microfilm filing equipment, and so we all had these stations that we sat at. Hold on a second. So we were all sitting at these stations, and the guy that sat behind me was really weird, because he looked identical to one of the directors that I had when I lived in Hollywood. I had done this one play. And this guy that I mean, this is several years this couple of years after I left Hollywood. I was not in California anymore. But this person that sat at this desk behind me, and I think he was actually my supervisor, he looked identical to a director that I had. But as far as I knew, he wasn't that director. I mean, he never acknowledged himself as that director, and I never thought he was, and he had a different name, and he was in a totally different state, and I just kind of chalked it up to coincidence. But then, for a couple of days, there was a guy sitting in that chair, at that same desk, that looked very similar to, not identical, but very similar to the boyfriend that I had that everyone said they didn't know who I was talking about. That guy. And this was like a year later. And for like 2 days, I think it was only like 2 or 3 days, there was a guy that sat at that same desk that looked very similar to that boyfriend that I had. And then the weirdest thing is that guy, they looked totally different, like totally different people, but they followed the same patterns. Like, they sat at the same desk, they went into the same rooms, you know what I mean? Like, when you work at a place, there's certain rooms that there's like a pattern that you follow throughout the day. He followed the same patterns that this other guy, but he looked like a completely different person. And I kept turning around and looking at him. I just kept looking at him and looking. I'm like, what's going on? Like, why is he sitting there? Why does he look exactly like my boyfriend from a couple years, last year or whatever? And then next thing I know, he was gone, and it was the other guy again. The one that looked identical to my director from the play I did in Hollywood. I don't know, you guys. All right. Same place. I got an apartment. And in this same town. And I'm still working at this job. I was homeless for like a month, and I lived in a shelter, and then I found my own apartment. I was still working at this job the whole time through all of it. My clock, the hands on my clock started spinning. Like I told you, I would bring the clock with me to work. And then after a while, the hands on the clock started spinning. Like they were magnetically being affected by some type of magnetic anomaly. I had mild endometriosis that I had been diagnosed. Without getting into like extreme details. This one night, I felt this shooting pain in my abdomen all night long. And I had had extreme physical pain prior to this laser effect thing that I experienced this one night. I had extreme pain. And this one night, I felt like this lasers shooting into my abdomen, and the next day, the pain was totally gone. And the pain was gone for a long time, and it did come back, but I think it was like a year or so later that the pain came back. So whatever happened to me was real. I mean, somebody was lasering me and caused the pain to go away. Well, in fact, they do use lasers for that type of pain. I read later and found out that there is like a laser therapy for that. But like I said, I was in my own apartment when that happened. And it was just like it happened over the whole night.